Hey everybody, I'm Denise, and welcome to this episode of Cosmically Connected. One of my favorite things about astrology is the ability to understand who we are and how we relate to other people. So that's why relationship astrology is so popular. And one of the places where I've had the most fun with relationship astrology is watching this season of The Bachelorette. This season features Becca Kufrin and 28 other guys who they have set up to give her the potential to find someone that she truly loves. So we will start with Becca. Anytime you do relationship astrology for yourself, you really need to focus on you and what you need from the relationship. Oftentimes it's easy to look for what we're lacking in another person, and astrology gives us that language to explain the energy that we're feeling or not feeling from another person. And so first we're going to start with Becca. Becca was born April 3rd, 1990. A couple things about that. First of all, that makes her a fire sign, and fire signs are passionate. It also makes her a cardinal sign. Aries is the first fire sign in the zodiac, and so it means it's an initiator, it's a leader. So she's a passionate initiator, and that's something that you can see very clearly with all the relationships she's had, getting to know these guys. It's also interesting that she's 28, and 28 is when Saturn comes around for the first time. They call it your Saturn return. And what's interesting about that is that if you had a lot of responsibility in your life, you're typically reevaluating that by the time you're 28. Or if you haven't taken on responsibility and gone to that next level, you are ready for it. The stars align and that you're mature enough and you're ready to make that next step. So it's interesting when you see people who've had long-term relationships and then suddenly get married, it's probably because the timing is right. So that's an interesting thing about her right now. I also think it's just so funny, like people do reveal themselves. One of my favorite things about Becca in this season is that her tagline is do the damn thing. And so if we were going to diagram that sentence, it couldn't be more Aries-like. Do, which is action, right? And she's ruled by Mars, which is the action planet, right? The damn thing. Damn means powerful. It's funny, but it's definitely like a get her done type kind of thing. And she's ready to do this. She really is. So anyway, there's that. Okay, so next we're going to look at her actual chart. The thing is that I don't have her birth time. So we're not going to attempt to figure out what each planet means in each house. But what is correct is going to be her list of planets. And what we're really going to focus in on is her moon, which is her emotions, Venus, which is how she loves, and Mars, which is action and also your sexuality when we're looking at it in relationship terms. And so we're going to skim down here to the bottom of her chart. And on the left-hand side, I've put a pink line around the box. You can see it has just a list of each of the planets, their symbols, and then what sign they're in. And so we've already discussed that she's a fire sign. She's an Aries. Her moon is in Cancer. Okay, so your moon is your emotions, and they're most comfortable when they're in a water sign. So hers is in Cancer, and you guys might have noticed she is emotional. She can cry pretty at the drop of a hat. She's in touch with her emotions, that's for sure. But one of the things I admire about her, and this next component, is her Mercury. And Mercury is how you communicate. Mercury is an Aries, so she's direct. As soon as she knows how she feels, she is direct in her communication. When she knows that someone isn't right or isn't there for the right reasons, she's able to make it quick and direct and just end it. So that's definitely a positive quality of having Mercury in Aries. Might be abrupt for some people, but it definitely works for the show as well. The most important part, and this is the thing that we're going to keep coming back to when we look at all the other guys, is that her Venus and her Mars are both in the same sign, which is really nice because it definitely makes it cohesive when it comes to how she loves and how she acts. Okay, so her Venus is an Aquarius. So Venus is how you love. Aquarius is ruled by the planet Uranus. Okay, these are all symbols, right? Just to give you an idea, all the planets rotate this way, except for Uranus. Uranus rolls this way. It's counter to all the other ones. And so the imagery for Uranus and Aquarius is that they're quirky, they're unconventional. They do their own thing, they're unique. And so what's interesting about this is she's looking for love on national television and is able to date 28 guys all at the same time. Pretty much only a Venus and Aquarius could handle that, meaning I mean, other people can handle it too, but just that she's very fair. She gives everybody a chance, and that's another aspect of having Venus in Aquarius. Also, she's definitely looking for her, for her best friend as her partner. Aquarius rules the 11th house of friendship, and so there's definitely, a connection there on a friend level. Is she needs somebody to be that's fun and that she could go do things with, and that she can confide in. So Venus in Aquarius is definitely looking for their best friend. She also has Mars in Aquarius. So her sexuality also, she also has that detached ability to kiss 28 guys on national television. So she's not too self-conscious, that's for sure. So just keep this in mind then when we look at the charts of the other guys to see where she connects, where the cosmic connection is. The other thing we want to look at is on the right-hand side of her chart. There is a box there with a grid that lists cardinal, fire, and mutable at the top, CFM. And as you can see, that column underneath the C, she has 9 cardinal planets. She's a very assertive, cardinal sign person, no doubt about it. So you can see there's only 3 under fire and 1 under mutable. So she's balanced in terms of elements, fire, air, earth, and water. You can see that, FAEW. But clearly she embodies the Aries female for sure. Okay, so one of the most obvious and I think fun guys to watch was Leo. And I really just shook my head when I saw him because I'm like, no way, he's got to be a Leo. I mean, he has that big mane of hair. Anyway, I looked him up and he is indeed a fire sign Leo. He was born August 14th, 1986, which makes him fire, which made him compatible with her in terms of elements. Clearly he's got the big mane of hair. But when all astrology aside, you also have to look at what are they doing in the real world. And he is a stuntman. He does live in Hollywood. And I think on that level, she's a Midwestern girl. As much as she might have liked him or was attracted or interested in him, I think she knew on a gut level that probably was not going to work out. So that was Leo. The next person that she was really interested in, and I think a lot of people rooted for because he was so sweet, was Wills Reed. And what's interesting is I've looked everywhere and I cannot find his birthday. However, if I was going to venture a guess, I'm going to come out and say that he is a Pisces for a couple reasons. His ability to handle his emotions and her emotions and the guys around him, he was able to kind of surf the wave of that and kind of keep everybody calm and under control. He also has very beautiful green eyes and he just seems so mellow and go with the flow. One of the best examples of this is when Chris the Interrupter asked for 2 minutes of his date and he was like, okay, 2 minutes, and then came back. He said, hey, I gave you your time. And then when Chris was resistant, he just held his ground, and then he was able to just ease back into the date and soothe her feelings. And so that was definitely a gift, and I think that was something she really appreciated about him. But ultimately, in the end, he didn't get to stay either. Okay, so moving right along, we now have Colton. All right, Colton is interesting on so many levels. First of all, Colton was born on January 26, 1992. So he's a little bit younger than her, but that makes him an Aquarius. So his sun sign is Aquarius. So she definitely feels that similar energy attraction to him. I think what's also interesting about Colton is that he is a football player, and her first boyfriend that she was with for 7 years, Ross, was a football player too. So she's definitely attracted to the same physicality and the same energy there. Colton is another example, a great example of an Aquarius, because he does stand out. There is something unconventional about him. I mean, he just recently revealed that he was a virgin at the age of 26. And, that might seem unusual, but he doesn't seem to care. It seems like he's held his ground and he knows what he wants. He's definitely his own individual, and that's definitely the sign of the Aquarius. So that is Colton. All right. We would be remiss anytime we're doing relationship astrology without looking back at the relationship before, because it's so informative to see what type of person you've been with before and what qualities you're familiar with. And so, especially since Ross did appear on last season's Bachelor, where he tried to stop Becca from dating or being on The Bachelor with Ari, but definitely thought we should give a shout out to him. So Ross Jurgel was her boyfriend for 7 years. He was born on April 7th, 1990. So they're basically like age mates. I mean, they're really only 3 days apart. What's interesting about dating someone who is your same sign is it's called a 1-1 vibration. And what's good about that is it's powerful. What's bad about that is it's powerful. And so it definitely exemplifies the good parts of your sign that you recognize in yourself, and it also exemplifies the bad. So everything is sort of in stereo when you're with someone that is your same sign. Okay, so when I pulled up Ross's chart, I noticed that his moon was in Virgo. And moon in Virgo is kind of tough because a moon in Virgo person is critical of their own emotions. And so on an emotional level, her being totally in touch with her emotions and then him being critical of his own emotions might have been a little bit of a disconnect. But where they really connected, and where I see that why they were together for so long, is that we talk about Venus and Mars. And in his chart, his Mars is in Aquarius. So that makes a perfect conjunction with her. Her Venus is in Aquarius, his Mars is in Aquarius, so that on a male-female level, that's like a perfect connection. Plus her Mars is in Aquarius, so Mars was together. So you can see how that definitely held them together for a long time. Aquarius is a fixed sign too, so that's something where they're focused and they stay connected for a long time. I think the other interesting thing about his chart is that his Venus, which is the way he loves, was in Pisces. And that's called, when Venus is in Pisces, it's an exaltation. My Venus is in Pisces, so I understand this. It's an ability to just like love beyond romantic love. It's all-encompassing love. You know, whether they're together or not, I'm sure he still loves her. And as we saw, I think he cared enough. I mean, some people might have thought when he went to Peru to try to stop, Becca, that maybe he was like, as you can see in this clip, I want my girl, I'm here to get her back. Yeah, there was probably some, macho Mars energy happening there. But I think also, knowing the motivation of Venus and Pisces, I think he also just does love her and didn't want her to make a mistake or be with someone that didn't love her back. So, yeah, it was definitely really revealing to see what was in the previous relationship and to see what she carries over into her next relationships. So, okay. All right, so the next person, and this is again another fascinating example of how astrology works, is Jason Tardik. Okay, so Jason, as you guys know, is a banker, and he is from Buffalo, New York, but now he lives in Seattle. And what's fascinating about him astrologically is his birthday is October 24th. What's a big deal about that? That makes him, makes him a Scorpio, which kind of explains why maybe he isn't as expressive, because Scorpios are they're a water sign, they're very emotional, but they're private about their emotions, and so he's not going to spill the beans right away. Just a note that Lauren from last season, who is now with Ari, was also a Scorpio. So same thing, she didn't show her hand. But what makes this really interesting, and I wonder if this is something that Becca even knows or knew at the time, is that it's the same day as her dad. So her dad was born. Her dad, Steve Kufrin, was born October 24th. And what I think is fascinating about him is he was a really cool guy, for one thing. He was a waterfowl activist. And so he's an outdoorsman. What I think is fascinating about that is, again, his birthday is October 24th. So he's almost on the cusp of water, which is Scorpio, and air, which is Libra. So, water and air. And waterfowl are water birds, which is kind of a perfect thing, water and air, and he was an activist for that, so that's neat. So, I don't think Jason really has, the outdoorsman thing. He is a banker. I definitely think he can provide for her. I think she probably relates to his energy because she grew up with it. I know one thing for sure, we talked about the friendship aspect. She loves his friends, and the fact that they went on that date and she met his friends and they loved her and she could see them all hanging out together, that was a beautiful thing. So I definitely think you can't count Jason out. How many guys get to have the good fortune of being the same birthday as, their future spouse's dad? So that's what's going on with Jason astrologically. Okay, so the next one. This one is a little tough. So here we have Blake Horseman, or Balake as he is known on Instagram. Blake is so interesting to me. His birthday is April 22nd of 1990. So they, again, are born in the same month. So they've got that sort of age mate thing going on. But because he is over the cusp, he is a Taurus, so he is not an Aries. So what the other interesting thing too is that he is from the Midwest. You know, she gets him. They definitely like lived very close, you know, in terms of states and kind of the Midwestern thing. But what surprised me when I looked at his chart is that his moon is in Pisces. So that does bode well for her and him. They both have their moon signs, which are emotions, in water. Moon in Pisces, though, for a guy is pretty tough because it's the most sensitive of all the moon placements. They are the most emotionally sensitive, and you can see he just gets killed when he sees her with other people. His Mars is also in Pisces, which is an interesting thing, and you'll see that as well. So he feels and acts like a Pisces. So even though he is a Taurus, we see so much of the Piscean qualities that you'll see in another person that is also a front runner. The other thing is that his Venus is in Pisces, just like her ex-boyfriend. So she's used to that kind of love. So again, it's just so cool for me to see all the positive astrological things that each of these guys has going. Each of them has a different aspect, but you can see why they're still hanging in there. I also just happen to know that, you know, Mars in Pisces and the moon in Pisces, you know, he acts like a fish, he feels like a fish, he probably drinks like a fish because he works for Core. So it'd be kind of hard not to indulge a bit if that's what you're selling, you know. So in terms of, you know, what kind of livelihood and how he can provide for her, I'm not quite sure if she feels like, you know, he might be the one, but I think definitely on an emotional level, she can connect with him. So that's what Blake's got going for him. Okay. So moving on, last but not least, the person who was, again, one of the more obvious, who embodies one of the more obvious factors or facets of his sun sign is Garrett. Okay, so Garrett, I bet you can guess by now, is a Pisces. His birthday is February 24th, 1989. Another 24, look at that. Not the same day as her dad, but the same date, birth date as her dad, which is another interesting coincidence. Garrett, obviously every single person that watches them knows that they have tons of chemistry together. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at his chart. So let's just go straight there. He was worth showing. Again, we don't know his birth time, so I'm not going to go through where the houses are or whatever, but if these, I can just, the way the stars, you know, the planets are aligned and clumped up together, it looks like they have a lot of energy in the right houses for romance. So when you look at their composite chart, and that's a whole other thing, so we'll talk about that later. But in his natal chart, his personal chart, his sun sign is in Pisces. So let's talk about that first. Aries is what Becca is, and she's the first sign of the zodiac. Okay, so there's this delineation, right? And then 12 signs later is Pisces, the 12th sign of the zodiac. So even though they're adjacent signs, which typically people get along, right? They're at opposite ends of the zodiac. So typically they say Pisces is the most evolved and that, you know, Aries is the first. So they're just new, you know, new souls, new whatever. Okay, so I do think there is a little bit of not to say a disconnect, but she definitely plays a more aggressive role and he plays a little more of a passive role because Pisces are mutable signs. So he's going to go with the flow more than her. She's going to take the initiative. So his moon, though, since we were talking about moons and compatibility, his moon is in Libra. So, you know, her moon is in Cancer. It's very emotional. His moon is in Libra, and it's about balance. It's in an air sign. So it definitely kind of chills out the emotionality. He would definitely want to keep her happy and stable. And he said it. He said it when Chris was causing all that trouble. He said, Becca needs someone who's emotionally stable. And that is moon in Libra in a nutshell. Emotional stability. It's the sign of the scales. You balance out. You sort of analyze, you know, you're analytical about your emotions. You still feel them, but it's definitely a cooler version of your emotions in the moon signs. So there's that. Then going down to the kicker, the Venus and the Mars. His Venus is in Aquarius. So she is with someone with the exact same Venus sign. And again, you know, how many people are, again, it goes back to being sort of the unconventional, you know, if they are to tell the story in the future of how they met, it would be a Venus and Aquarius story to say, we met on a, you know, dating show on live television, you know, in front of millions of viewers. That it would be an Aquarius, Venus and Aquarius love story. So the fact that they love the same way is really huge. I mean, you have a 1 in 12 chance, you know, right? There's 12 signs of the zodiac, 12 different Venus signs, and the fact that theirs is in the same sign is a really good thing they have going for them. Now, the other interesting thing about that is, okay, so her Venus is in Aquarius, his Venus is in Aquarius. Her Mars is also in Aquarius, so they have this thing too. So they have that completing each other kind of thing across their two charts, right? So that's another super tight connection. You know, they are cosmically connected when it comes to Venus and Mars. The outlier, which I think is an interesting thing and is positive in this case, is his Mars is in another fixed sign. So they have a lot of fixed energy there. His Mars is in Taurus, which is an earth sign, a fixed earth sign, and it's known for being one of the earthiest and most sensual. And this is where I see the chemistry coming through. I mean, they click, like, and everyone sees it, right? It's just obvious, you know? So that's, whether you like him or not, I know he's had a lot of controversy. The one good thing, you know, another thing that she has said that he has in his favor is that she says he reminds her of her dad. Well, he's a hunter and fisherman. One of the funniest, and I think one of the greatest, you know, ever episodes was when he taught her how to fly fish in a swimming pool. I mean, that was perfect. That was a perfect way to show who he was. You know, he can hang out in the city, but he's also very much a country boy at heart, which is what her family, you know, what she's used to. One last observation I want to make about Garrett is that when you look at his chart on the right-hand side, where all the where the little grid is set up with cardinal fire or cardinal fixed mutable, and then the elements fire, air, earth, and water, you'll notice that that top slot is empty, and so it just so happens that Garrett doesn't have any fire in his chart. And as I talked about earlier, a lot of times we seek people with energy that we don't have, that is missing in our chart. And so one of the, not want to say criticisms, but observations people have said about him is it doesn't seem like he's really aggressive. And so, you know, that's indicative of the Pisces as well. They're more of a passive, reactive. They're going to feel you out. And that's something, you know, he's going to respond. He's more responsive to her feelings. He's not shaping her or making her feel a certain way, you know, demanding that she acts a certain way. So what's really nice about this is that, you know, her energy will be appreciated by him. You know, he needs that energy. That's what's missing in his chart. And she, you know, of course, is always in the cardinal sign. And so it's nice for her to relax and let somebody just kind of take it easy with her. And then one last thing, one thing that I can say that I think most of all that showed who he was is that he does seem like he's ready. You know, when he rolled up in the minivan, that is an emotional play, but he basically was, you know, telegraphing the information to her that he is ready too. You know, he's 28 years old. He's been through a relationship. You know, he's married. She's been through a serious relationship. Actually, she almost got married again, right? So the one nice thing about that I see they have going for them is they both understand and want to commit to the long haul. So anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this episode, and that when you do watch The Bachelorette the rest of the season, that you will be informed and be able to see a little bit of people's astrology coming through. I'm excited to watch the hometown visits, and I'm excited to see the conclusion of who actually wins. Thanks again. Bye-bye.